Hello everyone, welcome to Hue at Home. I'm Tracy Koga. Well, I used to love June. It was the end of the school year and the kids were getting excited about summer, graduation, the Red River X, and also the Winnipeg Jazz Festival were all happening in this month. There's so much going on in this city. Well, flash forward to June of 2021, we're still in lockdown and fingers are crossed that we could have some semblance of summer yet. But today on Hue at Home, we'll have some great conversations. I'll sit down with singer-songwriter Suzie Ungerleider, who is not only creating some interesting music, she's also reinventing herself. But right now, I'll get down to business with the life and business coach, Linda Drosdowech. Well, it is so good to have a nice conversation with you, Linda. And I want to thank you so much for your segments on Hue at Home. All of them just resonate so much. And I want to actually take this time to learn more about your business as a life and business coach and the difference between life and business, because pre-pandemic, oh my goodness, we were heading for a catastrophe because most of us could not separate our personal lives from our business lives.
Absolutely. And thank you for having me, Tracy. I really appreciate it. I've just thoroughly enjoyed everything to do with Hue, Hue Crew and Hue at Home. It's just been such a great community to be a part of during the pandemic. I've met amazing people through you, and I just feel so much more connected to our community and really inspired by the people in our community. So I wanted to talk today about business and life coaching, and I love this question because it's something that I've had to work through myself. What is the difference between business and life coaching? And really, there's not much, because business coaching is what I offer my clients. But when you're coaching somebody, you're coaching the whole person. So what happens when somebody comes to me with their business and they want coaching, what we do is we start with, talking about the business and the business goals. But what happens is you start to see where life is impacting the business and all of the mindset issues that go into running a business start to come up. So really, when you're doing business coaching, it's really, you're coaching the whole person. And I work with one client right now. She calls herself a mompreneur. So she's a business owner and she has young kids. And so, I'm helping her on her business, but at the same time, we're talking about boundaries. How do you set boundaries with kids? How do you ask for more help from your husband? How do you value your own wants and needs and your own need for rest and fun and pleasure? So what happens when you're starting about, coaching on the offer, and we do that as well. We coach about, different email funnels and how to connect online and all of those things. But at the same time, you're also coaching on mindset issues, and which is general life coaching. Things like, a lot of women who have businesses and are using the very wonderful free media presence on social media. There's just tremendous opportunities, but what happens is all sorts of things come up. I don't want to be seen on camera. I don't want to be the face of my business. Am I going to look fat on camera? Are people going to make fun of me? What will people think? Do I sound too full of myself? Like, all of these things come up, right? When you're talking about your business. And so when I think about business coaching, I do see it as coaching, the whole person. And one thing I like to remind clients of is, how you show up for one thing in your life is often how you show up for other things. So if you are in business and you are having trouble uh, keeping to your business plan, we look at other areas of life where you also might not be showing up for yourself. Maybe you make a commitment to yourself to do yoga times a week and then you brush that off. Or maybe you've decided, I'm, not going to eat after 7 o'clock, and every night after 7 o'clock, the chips come out. It's how do you show up in each facet of your life also will indicate how you show up in your business. So it is a very holistic approach that I use.
Well, you must have a lot of patience, but I mean, you bring up things that are so similar, right? I mean, we've all gone through it, but especially now, Linda, and you yourself in this line of business, there's a lot of business coaches and life coaches out there. As a client, how do you best pick, or how do you pick the best coach?
That is such a great question, because there are a lot of coaches right now, which I think is amazing. I think this industry is just exploding right now. And it is, for me, it's an exciting opportunity, and I welcome the more the merrier. The more coaches there are out there, the more people are going to realize that it's a very normal thing to want to have a coach, to want to have a mentor in your life, or a person in your life who shows up just for you, hold space, is that kind of it's not your family or your friends who have, their own agendas for you or their own history with you. This is a coach just shows up and it sees you in your full potential, your full possibility, and is cheerleading you on to get to those goals. And often is, holding belief for you when you don't believe it yourself. I think that's one of the biggest parts of a coach, is when you have that doubt and you are like going, yeah, I don't think I can make this work. Your coach is, on your side, is on your team, and is cheering you on. So how do you choose a coach that's right for you? You know, honestly, it's just vibe. Like, honestly, it is really just that simple. It's who do you vibe with? Like, who do you want to spend time with? Who do you think would be really fun to spend an hour with each week? It's really that simple. There's no um there's no great there's no great way of determining the best way. I hired a coach for myself last year. I think it was in October. And it was a great reminder for me, because she was wonderful, just an amazing coach. And I actually ended up hiring her to coach my daughter when my daughter was struggling with school and was just like spiraling down with the pandemic and the online world, and she was just lost. I hired the same coach that I used, and she was so good with my daughter. Like, I was like, oh my gosh, what a blessing. Just completely turned her attitude around and her outlook on life. Um, and she did the same thing for me. She was just tremendously helpful. I hired her. I never once looked at her website. I don't even think she had a website at that point. I did her on. I didn't um, other than we had met once through um, another coach had set up a 1 hour consult. So anyway, so Jen, uh, and I do recommend her to a lot of people because she is so wonderful. And I had met her through another coach, and we just clicked, and it was something for me that was just, she can help me. And I think that is the criterion when you are hiring a coach, is you have that thought, she can help me, or he can help me, or they get me, or they're going to they're the one who can really help me get to my goal. it's really that simple, and it's really, you know, listening to your gut is what I would say. Trust your gut.
So, how did you get interested in becoming a coach?
You know, it's I started my business about 3 years ago as a writer and editor, and that's my background. I love writing. I love editing. I love anything to do with words. And at the time, there was a couple things going on. My mom was diagnosed with dementia, and she had always been a fantastic public speaker, amazing woman, amazing teacher. She was, um, a lot of people used to say she was ahead of her time, and she really was. I remember years ago when I was a teenager, she'd be marching at Take Back the Night, and she was always a champion for LGBTQ rights. And she was an amazing advocate. She spoke up for seniors, and she was really a very powerful person. And as she um, got further into dementia, she was losing her ability to speak and to write, which bothered her so much. It was so hard to see. But it inspired in me that a moment of like, it's now or never feeling in me. I need to use my voice. I need to support other women to use their voice. It was something um, very strong in me. And so I started to do more trainings and offer more group coaching, on public speaking, on using your voice, on, stepping into your power and stepping into even your ability to make wealth was
Mm-hmm.
important to me. And so I started to do more group coaching, and it was something that everything just clicked for me. The years of studying personal development, I was always fascinated by why people choose to make the decisions they do. I always was interested in personal growth, and everything started to come together. And so I decided to go, you know what? I'm just going for it. I'm going to, put out my service as a one-on-one coach. And, you know, from being in
Mm-hmm.
business, everything comes up for you when you go into business for yourself.
Oh,
All
yeah.
your self-doubts, all your worries, all of your imposter syndrome, and who do I think I am? And, this isn't going to ever work. All of those things start to come up for you. And I was inspired by those feelings in myself, because I thought, if I've got them, I know all the other women who I'm meeting in business, because I was meeting a lot at the time, have those same doubts and those same fears. And that has held us back for too long. And I really became so passionate about helping people to get beyond those fears, to stop letting those self-critical voices
Mm-hmm.
that just we wake up with, and are hammering at us all day long. I was tired of it in my own brain, and I knew that I could help other women get beyond that and really be able to put their dreams and their passions out into the world, because I truly believe that our world will be a stronger, better place if more women follow their dreams and their business goals. And I just see this beautiful um, expansion, me being able to help the clients that I do help. And I mean, I have a social media following who also are served by my words. I just see so many of the business owners are service based, and they have great hearts, and they want to empower other people. So it's just this beautiful opening up. So it's yeah, it really is my passion, and I'm thrilled to be able to work in my passion every day.
Oh, I know, right? It's not work. It's definitely not work for
Nope.
you. No. And then it's a beautiful story, and it's, I think, at such an important time for women, for people of color, for all of those that don't have a voice, to get the courage and get the coaching to have that voice and that confidence. And I really want to thank you because, the little chats that we have, or, when you join us on the Hue Virtual Chat, it's always inspiring, and you really do have a gift. And we just want to get the word out. She's open for business.
I'm open for business, and I am delighted to take on new clients. And I just wanted to say that when we speak of women of color and people who have had such a struggle in our society, Indigenous people, Black-owned people who have their stories are so important, and they are often the ones that struggle the hardest to get their stories out there. So I'm so appreciative of your channel, of your mission, which is to get stories from all sorts of people out there to empower each other. I think it's so aligned with what I do. And, I'm just thrilled to be a part of this community.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Linda.
Girl, you know what's up. Ooh, say what, say what, say what. Girl, you know what's up. Ooh, say what, say what, say what. So tell me what's up. I'm feeling you. I'm feeling you. Girl, you know what's up. Say I'm digging you, and I'm holding you. So tell me what's up. Tell me what's up. Girl, you know what's up. Ooh, say what, say what, say what. Girl, you know what's up.
Well, all the way from beautiful Vancouver, connected virtually, of course, but hey, that's the beauty about doing all of these Zoom calls. So good to see you, Suzie. And I want to say welcome to Winnipeg a little bit. You've been to Winnipeg before, and
Yes.
and I guess under a different name. And first of all, congratulations on the new coming out, or soon to come out, album, and some amazing singles. We'll talk about Mount Royal, but you released Baby Blues. What has this year been like for you, Suzie Ungerleider?
Thanks for having me, Tracy. This year, I feel very lucky to say that I've actually felt more connected to people in a weird way, because I'm having these regular discussions with people, and I can see people from all across the country. Like, we're making more of an effort to actually connect. And even though I can't see people in person, I feel like I have got a lot of community around, and I'm very lucky to be in a place where I can go outside and experience nature. And the weather has been, it's mild here as opposed to Winterpeg. So, yeah.
Okay.
And
well,
then I feel lucky because I did make this record, mostly before the pandemic started. So I've anticipated the release of this, and then also it's been time of reflection and contemplation about, doing this name transformation and all this stuff. So I feel good. I feel badly for people who are in much worse situations than I am.
Okay, so Suzie, how is this album maybe a little bit different then? Because, we'll talk definitely about the name change, formerly Oh Susanna, but now you're taking your own original name back.
Let me see. I think that it's interesting. I worked very closely with singer-songwriter Jim Bryson, and he produced the record. And we made it very, very kind of little bits at a time. So I would have a few songs, and then I'd go to Ottawa. I was living in Toronto, so it wasn't that difficult to get there. And I would go to Ottawa for a few days, and I would camp out with him in his little backyard studio. And he's got all these cedar trees around. It's really beautiful. And we'd work just the two of us mostly together. And I would play the songs and kind of watch him create this soundscape behind it. And it was very intimate, very personal feeling. And at the end of it, he was saying, you know, I really feel like we found your sound, that it's very true to who you are, instead of trying to fit into a genre or fit into some other kind of category. It's just an expression of how you see things. And so I guess it matched. I mean, at that time, we weren't really, you know, when I was recording, I wasn't really thinking about the name change or doing that at all. It kind of emerged after most of the record was done. But he said, you know, it really makes a lot of sense that you're going back to your name with this record, because it feels like it's much more about something coming from you rather than a genre or a tradition.
Oh, that is so interesting, because I kind of see a new wave of artists, especially female artists, emerging out of this pandemic and isolation and figuring and pivoting and whatever other words you want to put in there, but being authentic. I don't know if that resonates with you, but it's so funny that you shared that on what this whole point in your life is moving towards. And you know, it's like, and I think a lot to do with social media and everything like that, but I think females especially are being able to have a voice and not be afraid.
Yeah, being vulnerable and being able to just go, this is me, or this is, instead of, you know, that's what I think with Oh Susanna, it was a nice shield in a way, or a cloak that I could put on, and so I decided to take it off. I mean, it was interesting. I think it was kind of a gradual thing psychologically, and I wasn't really conscious of it, but I think over the last few years I've been kind of feeling a little disconnected from that persona that I had taken on. You know, I decided to use it like 25 years ago. So it was, you know, something that when you're younger, sometimes you decide to do things and they make sense at the time. And then as you get older, you're like, well, maybe I need to go back to who I was or what that means.
And also, well, I was going to ask then too, you do this change or this, you know, transformation. When you get back into live performance, will we see a new Suzie, or, you know, are there going to be people that are wanting Oh Susanna back? I'm kind of wondering about that, because I mean, coming back for an artist, no matter what, connecting with an audience is so important.
Yeah, it was interesting. Somebody even asked me, are you going to perform your old songs? And I was like, of course I am, because, you know, they're still my songs. And I've never really hidden the fact that my name is Suzie Ungerleider. It's like, it's something that I've always kind of had side by side, or just behind the curtain kind of thing. And it's interesting. I don't know if I'm going to consciously be aware of doing anything different. Mm-hmm. Maybe it will create some kind of difference, maybe in my attitude about something, or in the kind of stories I tell, but I think I've, you know, doing music over a long time, I've always tried to tell stories and sometimes tell other people's stories as if they were my own. And I think that as time went on, I was being more honest about what my stories were. And so maybe that is what will emerge now.
Oh, it's all exciting, I think, too, and especially in these times where, you know, we're all trying to find, I guess, our lane, right? Because everything, the world has changed, and, you know, who knows what live performances and concerts are going to look like, or whether we're all going to be there enjoying it but wearing masks, which probably, but I mean, again, that's going to be different too. For yourself on this new album, what songs really resonate for you?
I don't know. I think that they're like all little pictures and little movies, but it's interesting because the one Mount Royal is sort of like this sequel to the last collection of songs I did was about growing up in Vancouver and being a teenager, and the album ends. In my mind, the album ends when it's like you're 17 and you got to leave town, which is what, when I was 17, I was like, I can't wait to get out of here and see this little backwater in the rear view mirror. And so, move on to something bigger and better. And, everyone a lot of people I knew really felt this way about, their little town. They wanted to see other places. And, so the last album ends kind of this feeling of like you're going to go off to school, go off to college, and look, Vancouver's there, but you're going to leave it for now. And so the Mount Royal is sort of the next song it's sort of a sequel because it's about going off to college in Montreal and feeling out of place and being like, oh my God, I'm actually super homesick now.
Isn't that true? Yes.
Who am I? And why am I here? I don't understand this place. But then also the beauty of being in a place where you don't understand it and you don't, literally the language makes no sense, but also all the baggage of that place and just discovering something.
Well, and that probably brings back, well, obviously it does. You wrote the song about it, but it must bring back memories though, right? And then you kind of look back and then you look forward to where you are now. And, is there anything that you would have done different now that you know so much?
I don't know. It's so hard to say something like that because it's like, I do live, think about this all the time, what choices did I make and what happened after because of the choices I made. And should I have done something different? Mm-hmm. But I think the thing was that I don't know if I could have made any other choice or that choice that I made at the time made sense. If I were who I am now, would I have made the same choice? Probably not some of the choices. I'm hoping I wouldn't because I feel like I'm wiser. But yeah, it's kind of like you just have to accept, like, okay, I did that. Maybe it wasn't the best idea, but I did learn a whole bunch through this maybe weird choice that I made. Yeah.
Well, I guess that is for another album to come.
That's right.
Well, you are going to leave us though with a good song. So what are you going to play? And
I'm gonna play you guys Mount Royal since I've been talking about it.
And I love your
you
dog,
ready?
by the way.
I know she's very adorable, and she can't keep away from interrupting my Zoom calls. Whenever I'm on a Zoom call, she's like, "Can I go outside?" And I can't. I'm stuck. But can you guys hear the guitar?
Yes, it sounds beautiful, Suzie.
Okay, good. All right, here goes. It's imagine you're in Montreal in the late 80s, wandering the streets and feeling a little nostalgic and homesick. Skating around in those parking lots, rolling home every night after dark. You would see her shooting pool down on Saint Laurent, like she was shooting for the moon and the stars. You wanted to steal her away like Sir Lancelot. was always shooting pool down on Saint Laurent, like she was shooting for the moon and the stars, and the stars. We sang upon the banks of the port of Montreal, just after closing time at the bar. We fell down on our knees on the steps of the Oratoire, just to win the hell do we think we are, shooting for the moon and the stars. You fell too many times in that parking lot. You got tired of counting your scars. Monday morning back at school at Loyola Hall, still you were dreaming of the moon and stars. You started to give away all those things you bought, and traded your skateboard for a guitar. You decided to quit school, you said it all. Still you were dreaming of the moon and stars, and the stars. We sang among the ranks to an old-time country song, sheltered by the Blue Angel Bar. We spoke in broken French, so we never could belong, just to in the hell do we think we are, shooting for the moon and the stars, shooting for the moon and the stars.
Looking to highlight your hairstyle with some glitz and glamour? Well, you'll love Birch accessories. They are unique in design and quality without the high-end price. Express your personal style to the world with these beautiful and affordable pieces. Order online at verdesalon.ca or birchaccessories.ca and use new10 for 10% off your first order. Welcome back to Hue at Home. June is also Pride Month, so on the Hue Virtual Chat, we had a great conversation about the 2S LGBTQIA community. What was the biggest hurdle that you faced, and how did you resolve it or overcome it?
We had a recent situation in Winnipeg where we couldn't pay for our security for the route on our main thoroughfare in Winnipeg. So we were relegated to the city by a side street. So I wrote a letter to our mayor and I said, you know, we are citizens of this city. We pay taxes. We have the right to march in the public thoroughfare like any other citizen does every year. Santa Claus gets to go down our main thoroughfare every year, so why not us? And I said to the mayor, I said, we began this in 1987. And I said, you have a choice. You either, make it happen next year that we go on our main thoroughfare, or we will go and do it ourselves like we did in 1987. So now we are back on our main thoroughfare. And yes, it was a few years ago, but we have to be vigilant because, as Ozoma said, we have to call out those bureaucrats, those policymakers, because it creeps back in very subtly. Just with the violence we see in Canada, those conversations begin at the kitchen table with the parents standing, talking, listening, educating their children about their morals and their ethics and their phobias. And we see the result today in the violence, against people of color, the violence against queer people, because it begins at that kitchen table. And that's where we have to reach, right, to educate people. We live in a society with a constitution. My uncle went to fight in World War II, and he fought for freedom against fascism. And that's the freedom I live today, is in his memory. And that's why I walk on the street. I take my space in this nation on the streets to show people you could see me and I could see you. Thanks.
Thank you, Albert. Uzoma?
So when I think about, biggest challenge or challenging moments, I really do reflect on my own personal journey. And what were pivotal moments for me. And that's a long story, and it's still being written, right? It's still a work in progress. But I certainly think about how much lighter the work that I wanted to do became when I let go of what wasn't mine. And that's really hard. It's really hard to let go of what doesn't belong to us, to step out of the boxes that people build and put us in and tell us we're supposed to somehow fit inside of. It's a challenge. But when I did that, and when I committed to only surrounding myself with people who respected that, people who embraced that, doing the work became so much lighter. It just, because there wasn't this nagging, persistent thought in the back of my mind and on my heart that was putting doubt in me, that was making me question who I was. It was just a burden that was lightened tremendously. And so, working alongside and supporting people who are doing a lot of the heavy lifting, I think about the importance of lightening that load for them. How can I contribute in a way that allows for people to do what they need to do, whatever that is for themselves, without carrying what doesn't belong to them? And so it's about identifying when messed up things are happening and naming it and calling it out for what it is and saying that you don't accept that, I don't accept that. It's about finding ways to not only navigate the world in a way that makes sense for me, but supporting people in navigating the world in the ways that make sense for them. And so, and that takes a commitment, a daily recommitment, and learning and unlearning. I talk about learning and unlearning a lot because it's true in terms of how we move forward and the things we have to let go of, right? But that's an ongoing challenge, and those are ongoing moments. There are moments when I'm like, I don't want to do this today, or there are moments where there's that little feeling in your stomach where it's like, this is going to be really uncomfortable, and then you just push through. Especially if it's for other folks, you push through because you want to lighten up for them. And ultimately, I wouldn't be here today if people didn't do that work before me. And so I feel a tremendous amount of responsibility to make sure that people in the future, people down the road, people right now have it easier than I've had it, because ultimately we're all connected. So.
Well, thank you so much, Uzoma. Cynthia.
Yeah, you would think in 2016, when I officially came out, that, the 50 years before that the movement had begun and, been working, that allowed me to get to that point to deal with it. But yet I still, in my own mind, had to deal with the rationalization, the story that was based upon the heteronormative expectations that I knew of the way the world worked, that I would have to be prepared to lose my birth family, to lose my marriage, to lose my kids, to lose my job, to lose my professional reputation, to lose all my friends, to lose my finances, and so on. And that some people go, oh, well, you were so brave. But as I put in the chat, being brave is simply not an absence of fear, but learning to move forward in spite of it. And for me, getting out of my own way and allowing my journey to move in spite of all of that was really the challenge that I faced.
And then you blossomed into somebody very, very special. And I always say it too. Sorry, acceptance without understanding.
Understanding.
Yes, that's
I was blessed with that message. So
yes. Well, thank you,
yeah.
Robin.
Well, damn it, if they hadn't taken my shit. So, like self-stigma, that internalized stuff about, oh, I should try and fit in. And I remember that I actually went to the US and worked in a ski season because I also had people telling me stuff, and I was like, so, like, all my straight friends were like, you're straight. All my gay friends were like, you're not. And I was just like, my head's gonna come off. And I went and worked a ski season in the US and just went, this is who I am. And I had never done anything. And I went back to Australia and I told my parents, and my mum didn't talk to me for ages. My dad was super intelligent in the middle of a Chinese restaurant and said, all you need is a good poke and you'll be right. And I was just like, oh. And so dealing with self-stigma, like the internal stuff, but also my family at the start were a challenge, and they still are at times, right? Because, when I finally let go of, I have to fit into the lesbian box, when I let go of that and like got to do whatever I wanted and express, this was like just life changing. And, some of my family still struggle with that, like come home as long as you don't look like that, or bring that weird stuff. And so I think that the challenges are there, and I think I take from Cynthia, like brave. I think I'm brave every day because I'll say stuff to my family, but I also made a commitment that I would never hide any of who I am. So, I often wear coloured ties because I love them and they're an expression of me. And whenever I go to train a group, or I don't care who it is, I share who I am up front. And I think what I want to do is model, goosebumps. Woo! What I want to do is model how I hope the world will be, so everyone can just be themselves in every moment. So even when there's challenges with, you know, running training, you never know what people's views are going to be. And I just put it out there. Here's the reason why I wear this tie or this suit. And like, you can have your own opinions, but this is me and I'm me. And what I've seen is people say thank you, because when they see people just stand and be themselves, it allows them to step into a different space. So the challenges are ongoing, right? You know, they haven't gone away. They just sit there, and sometimes they pop out and I'm like, yeah, I heard you. Now why don't you just sod off? Because I'm going to be me every moment of the day. And that puts me in places that I could get hurt, and I'm going to do it anyway. Thank you.
Thank you, Robin. And that is why you are Robin Priest, Live Your Truth, peer, mentor, supporter, everything, great listener. You put everything into perspective. What would be your biggest hope and wish in all of these years that you've been such an activist?
Well, what I do is I work with the Ojibwe language specialists, and as Rana mentioned, the importance of mother languages. And there is a belief in the Ojibwe language about the creation of humans, and it predates colonization. And what the belief is that every child born has a role, a purpose, a destiny, and a divine gift. That is what the Indigenous people believe about creation of humans, that we all have that potential, regardless of our gender identity or sexuality. Indigenous people understood this tens of thousands of years ago, and that is something we want to share with the world. Our understanding of the relationship of the human to the natural world, the spiritual world, and there was no discrimination. And so we can build on that, right? That we all carry a divine gift. We are intentional, right? No matter what anybody says, we are intentional parts of creation. Thank you.
Thank you, Albert, so much. We want to say a special thank you to all of our guests on today's show and leave you with this question. Would you hire a life coach, and why? We want to know, so send us an email to hello@ilikehue.com, or you can message us on Facebook and Instagram at iLikeHue. But for now, stay safe and stay healthy, and we'll see you next time on Hue at Home.